when this administration came in, everyone in Washington knew that we had financial problems. So they set up this thing called the SAVE Awards, asking government employees coast to coast to come up with ideas that they would submit electronically to save money. And 86,000 of them came in. A lot of them focus on things that any of us might be able to see as really reasonable. For example, one of the ideas is getting rid of paperwork. We've all had big mailings from the government, all sorts of things. Government agencies trade things back and forth. Some of the workers pointed out, look, this is something that you could easily handle through emails, or you could handle them through smartphones, or all sorts of ways to get this information other than just printing out all sorts of documents. So they want to reduce this. A study a few years ago suggested that about $440 million a year is wasted on government printing that doesn't really have to be done. What are some of the other ideas? One really common theme was going after Congress. A lot of people said that somehow the performance of Congress should be tied to whether or not Congress members get paid or whether or not they can get a raise. That is actually a popular idea, difficult one to pull off because the Constitution keeps any Congress from changing its own pay. It can only change the pay for future Congresses. So popular idea, hard to pull off. And then there are some ideas that we've heard many, many times. Let me reach in my change pocket here and bring this one out here. The idea of getting rid of the penny came up from several people. And this has been talked about, as you know, Wolf, for a couple of decades now. Very difficult to pull off. Yes, it costs more to produce a penny than a penny is worth, but politically, a hard idea to get rid of. But nonetheless, Wolf, this is a range of the type of ideas that came pouring in those tens of thousands. Wolf?
86,000 recommendations. How many of these ideas have actually been put into place, Tom?
Not a whole lot. You know, really, it's a small number of them, Wolf, and some of them sort of track with what the administration was doing anyway. But people seem to like the idea of doing this. And here's something really worth bearing in mind. Some of these ideas that may seem really silly and odd actually can work. For example, the goats. One of the suggestions was that the White House should get goats. The federal government should buy goats, and these should become groundskeepers. You could turn them loose to take care of all sorts of properties all over the country that the government needs taken care of. This may seem silly. I know standing here amid my little electronic goats seems very silly, but this has actually worked before. Back in World War I, Woodrow Wilson knew the country was having a hard time with finances. He got a flock of sheep and turned it loose to take care of the White House lawn because it was cheaper than having gardeners do it. They sheared the wool, they used the wool, and it genuinely worked. So, Wolf, all these ideas pouring in there may seem silly in some cases, but if you read through the list on this website, you see a lot of well-intentioned ideas from thousands and thousands of government workers across the country who truly think that they, as taxpayers, would also like to see a more efficient government.